Well, what's crack? Hope we're all good. We are back for another video here, and today I'm going to be chatting through my biggest lessons from my county career to date. Basically, the thought process behind this one is like making a video for like the younger version of myself, or maybe someone who is on the outside of a county panel looking in, wanting to get in a feel and an idea of what's actually happening inside the setup and what they maybe have to do to get to a certain level. So hopefully there's a few lessons you can take from it that you can either put into practice yourself to break into a county panel, or even if you're playing at club level, how can you get the absolute most out of what you're doing and go up the levels there. If you enjoy the video, if you take plenty of value from it, please like and subscribe and share with a teammate who you think would enjoy it as well. In this video, I'm going to go through a couple of key points and lessons that I've had over the last 5-6 years of my county career. And starting off, like, I came into the county panel when I was 19 at the end of 2018 to the 2019 season, and was still pretty young, just fresh off the back of a good club campaign. And then I ended up taking 2 years out. I stepped away from the panel, played club for a couple of years, got the body ready, got the head right, which I'm going to chat about a bit more in this video, and then could call back into the team around the end of 2020, start of 2021, for the 2021 season. And I've pretty much been, initially had to work my way back into the team, work my way back into the starting team. But since then, from like 2021 championship time onwards, I've been a regular starter in the team unless I've been out injured. So yeah, going to chat through a good few lessons over that journey and plenty of insights that you mightn't always hear from players. So lesson number one is playing at county level. It's a lifestyle. It's not a hobby anymore. It has to be almost like a way of life. And initially I didn't have this myself. I had to learn the hard way that you had to almost be obsessed with it to an extent, and you literally have to live your life in a certain way in order to play it the best you can come the weekend game. You know what? I learned that lesson the hard way. Whenever I first came in, I was probably too immature. Body was in an alright spot. I was fast, I was strong, I was fit to an extent, but the lifestyle off the pitch then, like my mates were still in university, I was trying to have that sort of social life. I was working a lot. I was getting up like late nights, early mornings, that sort of thing, and essentially was just burning the candle at both ends. Getting out at the weekend, trying to have a social life, drinking at the weekend, eating shit foods, and then like carb loading, essentially consuming loads of calories, not playing as much as I should have been. And do that a couple of weeks in a row, the body fat starts to pile on, and then that started to slow down my progress. And I wasn't ready for the commitment, and my body and my head probably weren't up to the level that it needed to be to operate at that level, or operate at the level that I wanted to. When I first did come in, it was probably because I was young, I was immature, probably had a bit more of an ego than I do now. It was definitely an ego boost, like being in the team. I was almost like just happy to be there, which is mad to say, and it actually it annoys me a wee bit that I was just kind of happy to be there. But when I was that age, that was my mindset. It's like, right, I've made it, I'm in the county panel sort of thing, and thought, right, I'm here, it'll just sort of fall into place, it'll just sort of happen for me. I wasn't really mature enough for it, and that taught me plenty of lessons the hard way. After that then, so about maybe halfway through the league campaign, maybe towards the end of the league campaign in 2019, I was like, right, I need to get this right. I'm not up to the standard here. So went back to the club, played with the club 2019, 2020 then, obviously the COVID year. And then basically it was over COVID that I got myself up to a standard that I was ready to go back. And it was from taking that step back and being on the outside looking in, it was like, right, that's exactly where I want to be. And now I'm ready to go and operate at that level and train as if I want to be at that level, after getting all the other shit out of the system. So the main lesson with this was you have to behave your way to success. Like if you want to operate at a certain level, you have to imagine yourself already at that level, and then think of like how would you train, how would you eat, how would you live your life on a daily basis, and then that gives you the clues in terms of like what you have to do to get to that level. And it's one thing I chat about with my coaching clients these days is the high performance habits. So essentially having your training, having your nutrition and your lifestyle, having all three of those working in harmony with each other. Your training, your nutrition and your lifestyle is all moving in the right direction towards where you want to get to. If you want to operate at a certain level, you have to have the standards, routines, habits, behaviours in order to get you there. So that's one frame I always thought about. It was like, right, what would the county level version of Owen do? How would they train? How would they eat? How would they behave? What would their lifestyle be like? And then you have to start putting those steps in place, and if you do that for long enough, you end up getting towards that position. So lesson number two then is the commitment levels that are actually required to play at county level. And essentially it's a big jump across all areas, especially around time commitments, the energy that you have to give, the intensity of the game, the speed of the game, like all of those go up, and you have to adapt to that pretty quickly to get the most out of your performance and they actually have an impact whenever you're at that level. If we just take a training week, for example, like say we're training Tuesday, Thursday on the pitch and with a game at the weekend. Monday, you're probably in the gym, and that would probably be a collective session. Sometimes you get a wee bit of flexibility, and it's okay if you can go and do your own gym session, but for the most part, you're doing collective gym sessions probably on a Monday. On a Tuesday and Thursday then for pitch sessions, you're probably leaving the house at 5, half 5, getting to training for 6, being in the gym, doing your warm-up, or else maybe it's video and then warm-up, or vice versa. And then you're on the pitch at 7, training 7 to maybe half 8, 9 o'clock, in the change rooms, shower, food afterwards, and then you're maybe getting home about 10, sometimes maybe half 10, depending on where training is. So right away there, like there's 5-6 hours, 2 days a week just for training alone. And then we get the games. You're probably, it could be a home game where I live pretty close to where we play our home games, which is grand. Like it's only like a 5-10 minute drive, but you'd still be meeting for a 2 o'clock throw-in. You might be meeting at, half 11, maybe 12 o'clock for a 2 o'clock throw-in. You're there, maybe home 4, half 4. And that's pretty much like a good chunk of that day gone. Not to mention if you've an away game halfway down the country somewhere, you're away the night before, you're staying over, you're playing the game, you're coming home late that night. So there, just before you even look at the extra gym work that you're doing, your own recovery sessions and maybe wee bits and pieces of rehab that you have to like mix in there as well. The time commitments are pretty demanding, but you're aware of that whenever you are signing up to it and you're signing up to that commitment. So it's part and parcel of it, basically. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Like, you kind of know that the commitments are going to be up. You know that you're going into a higher level elite setup, and you're essentially in a professional setup without, the pay that comes with it. But I think a lot of players will enjoy that, and being part of it as class, like you almost get into like a wee bubble, and everything on the outside is kind of like pushed aside. Not always a good thing, but there is a real satisfying feeling and fulfilling feeling that comes with knowing that you're putting everything into it, and that you are probably saying no to certain things to go all in one thing. So while it does seem like a big commitment, it is well worthwhile at times. Last number 3 then is understanding your role in the team. Most players, when they come in the county panel, they've probably been one of the key players in their club team. So they're used to maybe being the main man, having a real influential role. But when you go into a county setup, it's literally the majority of the time, it's the best players from each club that are in that panel. And there's probably going to be a lot of players that play the same position as you, and probably a good few who actually are better at you in that position and probably can play the position better than you and have been doing it for a bit longer too. So it's, for me, the big thing had to be like wrapping my head around like what's my actual role for the team here. You'll probably find yourself in positions that you don't naturally play because there are so many players that can fit into many different positions. Like myself, for example, ended up playing cornerback. Played my whole career halfback or half forward really for club the whole way up. It was my performances at halfback or half forward that got me brought into the team. But then when you look at the calibre of players that are playing in those positions for the county team and have been doing for a couple of years, it's going to take a while to kind of work your way into those sort of positions. And sometimes management just see different players fit for different areas, and yeah, you can find yourself in somewhere like cornerback where I've never played before in my life. But that was something that I had to wrap my head around, and part of you is like, right, I have to get myself up to a certain standard that I can operate at in this position and get up to speed in this position very quickly. But it's also looking at the qualities and attributes that you have from playing further out the field and being able to bring them into play then. So if I've been playing halfback or half forward, obviously going forward a lot more, being on the ball a lot more, and then now we're in the cornerback. Yes, the man marking side of things is probably something that you have to bring up, but then you have a lot of attributes that you've developed from playing further out the field that you can bring into cornerback and add like a different dimension to it. So breaking at speed, putting the player on the back foot, having the vision and sort of passing ability to be able to set up attacks from deep, it can actually be really beneficial, and you almost like put your own spin on the position. So yeah, I think it's understanding your role in the team. Like, you're probably not going to come into a team and be the key man. Yes, you can be one of the key men, or I think that's the main thing. You're probably going to have 1 or 2 real out and out like class players, and I think the rest of the team are like almost like the worker bees that have to do a lot of the hard work, and when everyone sort of pulls together that way, like that's what makes the team click, rather than having like 5, 10, 15 just unbelievable players. I think there's always going to be a couple of great players, but a lot of players who have a certain job to do, and you don't have to worry about doing 4, 5, 6 different jobs as you might do sometimes playing in a club level, because they just aren't, maybe the level isn't necessarily as high as it would be at county level. That's number 4 then, is the physicality and the conditioning side of things. And I've probably mentioned this already when I was chatting about the intensity of the game and the speed of the game, but different players are going to have different experiences when it comes to that physicality side of things. If you're a young player just coming in, chances are you probably need to build a bit of size and strength and get yourself physically ready when you're playing against players who are maybe, late 20s, mid to late 20s, maybe in the early 30s, and you're maybe coming in at like 18, 19, 20-year-old. There's still going to be a bit of physical development that needs to go on there. So whether that's building size, building strength, building that power, just to be able to withstand the contact of playing against fully grown men, essentially. Also building up the tolerance to load is going to be a big thing. So with the game being a faster pace, fitter players, more explosive players, like you're literally moving faster, you're covering more ground, players are hitting harder. So you have to get your body accustomed to that load. The big thing that I realized there was like, yes, you want to increase the fitness and you want to increase the speed, but you want to be able to do that over like a consistent basis year after year. It's like a compound effect. It's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to go from 0 to 100 right away. But each year you essentially want to go from level to level to level. And again, this is something I preach with my coaching clients from this experience, bringing it back. It's like, right, can we go from level to level year after year rather than just going through, getting to a certain level, dropping off maybe in season, pushing to a certain level and just kind of going through the same cycle over and over again. It's like, right, how can we actually grow and evolve year after year? When it comes to like the fitness and the conditioning side of things, just to throw like a couple of numbers at you, when we were using the GPS, like one of the first years I was in, when we looked at the totals, you were maybe covering like 60, 70K per month. 50 to 60K per month in terms of total distance. Then the next year we built that up to like 80 to 90K per month. And then we built that up to like 100K to like 120 to 130K over the space of a couple of years. And it just shows you like that sort of compound effect. Like that first year, that 60K probably took more out of me than any other year. And it was just like getting the body up to that standard and getting accustomed to it. But then once you were accustomed to it and that became the new norm, like the next year, jumping up like the 80 to 90K wasn't as big of a jump as getting up to that sort of 60K. Whereas club, you're maybe operating around like 40, 45, 50K. And then the following year, get up to like 100K like per month. This is in the off season, obviously. And again, the body's accustomed to it. It's not as big of a jump as, it was to maybe from 60 to 80, 90K. Like you add more distance on and the body's able to adapt to it because it's compounded over time. And the idea with that is going above and beyond where you are in the off seasons, that when it comes to the in season, when the volumes come down but the intensity goes up, you're well fit to handle that. So again, that's a bit of an insight into the training side of things and how it kind of works. That's the main thing, is like the body will adapt, but it's that long-term progression that you're looking. It's not going to happen in 1 year. It's not going to happen overnight. So just chip away at it bit by bit, whether that's building size, building strength, building speed, or probably building conditioning. The game will always go through evolutions, and where we're at the minute, yes, you need to be big, strong, lean to an extent, but it's very much about how mobile you are, how quick are you, how much can you keep going, how's the engine, how much can you get up and down the pitch and repeat those high intensity bursts. Like it's far more of a running based game rather than just being as big and as strong as possible and getting contacts on. You have to be able to move in the modern game. So that's what I've noticed over the last few while, is it's going to more of a running based game. It is a more running based game, so you have to be fit. Everyone has to be fit to handle the demands. It's 15 men go forward, 15 men come back, and you have to be able to get up and down that pitch. That's number 5 then. This is probably the big one and probably most relevant at the minute, and it's around injuries. This has been a constant battle since my first few years going in. Like when I first went in, as I was saying, I was 19, I was playing club senior, I just finished club senior, I was playing club under 21s and was training with the county seniors then. Basically you were training 2-3 times a week, you were doing your gym work and then playing a game at the weekend, probably training the day after as well. So the load was just massive, so the body started to feel that, and you're operating at an intensity that was higher than you've ever hit before. So just with that, like that spike in load right away, you're going to start to pick up with things, and that's where that long-term approach of like trying to gradually do that. And if you're in a good setup, they will mind you and they'll sort of pull back, and then they'll know when to push, know when to pull. The reality is that you're probably always going to be managing something. With the nature of the sport, with the load, the intensity, the speeds that you run at, the amount of work that you go through, even the physicality of the game, there's a high possibility that you're probably going to pick something up throughout the season. It mightn't always be like a massive injury where it's going to keep you out for a period of time, but it might just be a wee niggle just to be like, right, I need to spend a wee bit more time addressing this and keeping it right and keeping it feeling good. But that's probably the thing. Like if you look at starting 15, there's probably at least 8 to 10 of them who are probably carrying some sort of niggle. So it's just mentally preparing yourself for that. But that's why there's such a big emphasis on the S&C side of things. And with the S&C, like the purpose of that is to get the body prepared for the demands of the sport. So to essentially reduce the likelihood of injuries. So we want to be fast enough, we want to be getting our speed in every week so that, you know, whenever you do go to sprint in a game, it's not a complete shock to the system. So sprinting is actually one of the best like injury prevention kind of tools out there for like the hamstrings, calves, groins. Getting strong and robust in the gym, building size, building strength, building the ability to produce force, absorb force when we're landing, jumping, changing direction, and then getting those exposures to like the change of directions, building up the running volumes that we can get up and down the pitch, and we can continue to, we can recover faster between those high intensity bursts so that we can handle more work. That's essentially why we do it all. It's not like people get caught up in working in certain areas. Maybe they go too much in the gym, too much running. It's developing like a holistic approach that mimics or supports the demands of the game and develops the areas that are needed for the demands of the game. In order to play at the highest level, you want to give yourself your best possible chance of operating at that level. So you want to be as physically prepared as possible. And then obviously the skills come into it as well. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into what it's like operating in a county setup. It seems pretty intense and it can be pretty full on at times, because it can be. And when you get the opportunities to take the downtime, you need to take that downtime to keep yourself fresh physically, but also mentally. So that whenever you do come back in, you can perform at your absolute best. When all the hard work comes together, there's honestly no better feeling when you know that you've emptied the tank, you've ticked all the boxes over a space of a couple of months, and you either get a good result, or even if you don't get the result, but you come away going, right, I know I literally couldn't have done any more there, and you see that there's another level that you can get to. It's like, right, it's exciting, it's satisfying on one end, but it's also exciting. I remember one game in particular, we played Cavan in the league last year, and since it was the last 2 games of the league, we needed 1 win to stay up. Cavan were top of the table, going for like an unbeaten run, and we beat them at home. Like the whole talk was like, Cavan, no chance to beat us. We had a so-called weaker team the following week, so a lot of the chat was, sure, if you don't beat Cavan, you just have a crack again next week. But Cavan came, we turned them over, and yeah, I was like fed up all winter. I like literally stuck it out, and by the time we got that result, just standing on the pitch afterwards, I was like, literally all that shit, winter running and training in the stinking weather, I was like, it was just that one moment, just like, yeah, that's all worth it. Like, so it's those wee moments just make it all worthwhile. So if you ever get the opportunity to operate at that level, like, definitely go for it. You'll learn so much from it. But even if it's not on your radar and you don't want to operate at that level, like, that's grand, that's 100%. But I'm a big believer that even in a club setup, there's so much more levels that you can go through. So hopefully you can take a few things from that, apply it to where you are now in order to get yourself to the next level, or build on a couple of levels over the next couple of years, depending on where you're at. Anyway, going to wrap it up here. Cheers for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with a teammate. Cheers.